Trump has an idea for how America is going to solve crime and increasing theft. His solution is to combat it with more crime. Take a look at this.
The liberal left wants to destroy him, and they want to destroy our country. You know, if you had one day, like one real rough, nasty day with the drugstores, as an example, where when they start walking out with, you know, she created something in San Francisco, $950 you're allowed to steal. Anything above that, you will be prosecuted. Well, it works out that the 950 is a misnomer because you can steal whatever you want, you can go way above. But they have to be taught. Now, if you had one really violent day, like a guy like Mike Kelly, put him in charge, Congressman Kelly, put him in charge for one day.
That's crazy.
With millions watching and many people benefiting from this program called Indisputable, we just need 1% of the viewers to become a paid member so we can continue to bring this content to you. Now back to the show.
So there was Trump, and he was addressing a crowd of rally goers Sunday afternoon in Pennsylvania, alongside Representative Mike Kelly, Republican of Pennsylvania, when he began discussing retail theft in New York City. CNN's Caitlin Collins likened the idea to the movie The Purge, which is, of course, what I thought of, and I'm sure it's the first thing you all thought of too. Here's what CNN had to say.
You know, when you hear that, I mean, he's literally describing the plot of the movie Purge for people who haven't seen it. But Frank Luntz, just listening to that, talking to voters, you know, when we're talking about these undecided, persuadable voters, how do you think they hear something like that?
Well, you're getting right to the point, and this is critical. Voters, these undecided voters, don't like how Donald Trump talks, but they do agree with him on many of the most important issues. They approve of Harris's approach of focusing on the future, but they question her on issues like this, whether she's strong enough and tough enough. So the rhetoric is not effective, but focusing on the issue is, and that's why they're still undecided voters.
Yeah, and I agree that a lot of it comes down to rhetoric, right? A lot of the people who are watching Trump on Fox News, a lot of the people who are going to his rallies and just following him on Truth Social and just soaking up everything that he has to say, they're not looking beyond what he has said, right? They're not going to fact check the things that he said. They're not they're not following Kamala Harris HQ on Instagram or TikTok to where, you know, they can kind of rebut a lot of the things that he says and fact check him in real time. They're not getting all that. So all they hear is that there's so much crime and Trump is the one who's going to fix it. He's the only one who can fix it. And they believe that because that is what he tells them. I'm the only one who can fix your problems that you have. He had 4 years in office. He didn't fix the problems. We still have crime. We still have all these bad things. We still have immigrants coming into the country. He likes to blame it on the Democrats, even though he was the president for 4 years. Sharon, what do you make of all this? It's very strange.
It's a willful, active, goofball choice to continue to believe only what Trump tells you. If that's what you want to do and live on some kind of, you know, planet with Martians, who probably I shouldn't disparage Martians, but that's what people are doing. He hasn't delivered on pretty much everything he said. Where's that wall that Mexico was going to pay for? Okay, it's not there. Okay, something was put up, but that was already in the plans, and he can't take credit for that. And Mexico, the former and the current leader said, we're not paying for that, homie. Bye. Okay. He did not fix COVID, of course. Remember telling us to drink bleach. The pullout of Afghanistan is one of the things that Joe Biden and Kamala, okay, say her name right, get the blame for. But who set all that in motion? He set about 1,000 traps for the Democrats. If you still want to believe this guy, we're still trying to figure out how his ear healed so quickly. And I'm not saying there's any kind of conspiracy. All I know is one day you cut a maxi pad in half and you had that on your ear. And then it was off and there's no scarring, no nothing. Maybe, you know, his former doctor, Jackson, was it, is correct that he's just like this invincible, he can live to be 200. Please help us. It's just, stop it. You know,
you look at him, Sharon. He's a vision of health.
Oh,
you know, he's so strong. I don't want to, but to your point about, you know, it being a willful, ignorance to just listen to Trump and just hear the things he says and believe him. I think it's also not just Trump that they're listening to, but they live within an echo chamber, right? All the people that they associate with are also Trump supporters. All the accounts that they follow on social media, they're all Trump-friendly right-wing accounts. They go to church and they hear things from their pastor, from another person that they trust, say echoing a lot of the same ideas, or at least endorsing somebody like Trump. So they're getting it from all different places. And still, you would hope, or you would think, maybe, you know what, maybe like 10 years ago, you would have hoped or thought that even if they're hearing these things from certain people, that they would say, hey, that's not right, though, right? You shouldn't say these things, or you shouldn't want these things, or you shouldn't do these things. But that really hasn't happened over the last 10 years. Instead, what we've seen is people making excuse after excuse after excuse, each one worse than the last, because the last thing that he said or did was worse than the last thing he said or did. And there is no ceiling for these people. They will just keep going. And at this point, it's like, I don't know if it's like a sunk cost fallacy where they're already so far in that they can't get out at this point, because that would be embarrassing. But I think that kind of is part of it, right? Because they have not just decided to support this person as a political candidate, but they have built their entire personality off of supporting this man as their hero, not just as their presidential candidate. You know, when Joe Biden was running for president, I was probably going to vote for him. I wasn't happy about it. When he dropped out, I was like, all right, cool. My entire personality wasn't, I'm a Joe Biden supporter. And I think a lot of Democrats and people on the left, or just people outside of that MAGA world, see it that way, right? It's like, yeah, I was probably going to vote for that person, but I don't believe every single thing that they tell me. I don't like every single thing that comes out of their mouth, and that's fine. I'm supposed to be able to criticize my elected officials, but with MAGA, with these Trump people, that just isn't the case. Anything else, Sharon?
Yeah, criticize. Remember, Donald Trump thinks you should be executed, locked up at least for criticizing him or making fun of him. And I hope Taylor Swift has good bodyguards, because if he ever gets back in, he will target her in some kind of way. And the goofballs who follow their dear leader will go along with it. I just wish that we could have it. I understand they're in a cult. That's what you call this by definition. But I wish that they could just have a little bit of decency, self-respect, to just ask for just a tiny bit of proof. Why not ask Marjorie Taylor Greene, would you mind showing me those space lasers that you were talking about? And then I'll proceed with the rest of the agenda, and I will follow you blindly. No one's asking her for the Jewish space lasers, okay? Because this is twisted and cuckoo.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If she had them and she could provide evidence for them, then we'd say, okay, she was right. But until
Remember
then,
Geraldo?
like, what are you talking about? You know?
Remember Geraldo, who opened the door of that, what was it, a pyramid or something? Okay. It didn't work out for him. You probably don't even know who Geraldo is, do you?
I know Geraldo. I'll tell you about Geraldo.
Oh, I bet. Yeah, I tell you some things too, but we don't have to get into it right now. But the thing is, they wanted proof, and he built the whole show around it. And he looked foolish, sure. But maybe it'll work out for them. Show me just a little bit of proof, because I'm a human being, and then we're supposed to kind of go by a little show and tell, if you will, yes?
That would be the most amazing show and tell I would have ever seen, I would say. Be hard to top, that's for sure.